you. Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, July 21st, 21. Before we start, I'd like to say we have 4 continued hearings in case anybody would be interested. They will not be handled tonight. Mario Signori at 91 Edgewater Drive, George and Carrie Barrett at 4 Vern Ave, BERE LLC off North Carver Road, which is the solar system over the Cranberry Bogs, and Wareham MA3 LLC at 91 and 101 Faring Hill Road, which is another solar project. In case you're here for those, we will not be taking them up tonight. So we have minutes. We were given 4 sets of minutes to review. We have minutes of July 1, 2020. Let's see. I think everybody, we have Sandy, Alyssa, Michael. We have 3 of us that were at that meeting. Does anybody have any comments on the July 1st, 2020 minutes?
None.
Ben? I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 3. You weren't here. 3?
I know.
Yeah. So I have 3, 4. Any opposed? Any abstaining? 302. Okay, the next set of minutes are July 15th, 2020. Same people. Alyssa, Michael, Sandy.
No.
I had no comments, all set, so I need a motion.
Motion to, no, you're good.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 302. We have a set of minutes from January 6th, 2021. I did submit some comments. I don't know if they were modified.
Yes, those changes were made.
Okay. So we have minutes of January 6th, 2021. Let's see, Alyssa, Michael as an associate, Kwame as associate, but you were here. You can vote on them. You listened to them, so I need a motion.
So moved.
So moved. I need a motion to approve. Then you can.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion and
Second.
a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 401. We have minutes of April 7th, 2021. Okay, we have Sandy, Michael, Alyssa, Carol, and Kwame was absent. I've looked at them. I've made a couple notes to Mr. Bichette where
Yes.
the documents that were referenced in the minutes will be attached to the formal minutes as, okay, thank you.
Motion to approve?
Thank you.
Second.
Second, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1. That's minutes. Thank you, Kelly. Keep them coming. All right, first public hearing, please.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, at 6:30 p.m., on the request for determination of applicability for Matthew Buckingham, 11 Crane Landing Road, Wareham, Mass., to construct an indoor pool located on Assessors Map 106, Lot 21, 11 Crane Landing Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing this project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Matthew Buckingham.
Can you please sit, please?
Thank you.
Mr. Bichette will read the project.
The project site is at 11 Crane Landing Road, and this is an after-the-fact filing for work that was done at this site in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. Site work associated with the installation of an in-ground pool and a corner of the pool were done in the buffer zone with no approval from the commission. The limit of alteration is approximately 87 feet from the edge of the wetland, which is a cranberry bog in this area. Fencing and a corner of the pool are approximately 92 feet from the edge of the wetland. The majority of the work associated with the installation of the pool is outside the buffer zone. The initial plan submitted with the building permit application showed that no work would be in the buffer zone, so that was signed off on, but then it was discovered later that some work was done in the buffer zone area. The alteration in the buffer zone is relatively minor, so I would recommend the approval of the work with a negative determination number 3.
Matthew, any comment on it?
No, we knew that there was an issue with it, and we came here and addressed it. Like, we kind of ratted ourselves out on it, but we wanted to go through the process. We wanted to make sure that it was all right.
So your contractor did you a no-no?
I showed him where we were supposed to go. The shovel went 5-10 feet where it wasn't supposed to go. So, yeah, the contractor kind of... I blame myself. I should have stayed there and been there through the whole process.
So it wasn't mapped out, it wasn't staked out?
It was staked out from the hay bales that we put there from 2017, when we first did it. And when they moved them with the machines, they lost track of where it was. The stakes got buried, and they
Okay.
just went a little bit over where they weren't supposed to. They were
Thank
supposed
you.
to stay on track.
Questions?
Dave, is this something that we would have approved had it been brought before us?
Yes, in my opinion, it would have been something we would have approved, yes.
Anything else, Carol?
No questions.
Follow me?
No, I went to the site and everything was clearly marked out. I have no questions.
Michael?
None, no questions this time.
Denise? I have nothing. Is there anybody here who wants to speak to this project? I'm seeing none.
Move to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
get those green cards.
Sure, David.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to ask about green cards.
That's all right.
It's been a
Thank
year
you.
and a half since we've asked for them. Okay, so the hearing is closed.
Make a motion.
I move that we accept the project with a negative determination of 3.
And the usual and customary, how about, do we have to do anything here, Sandy, with surrounding areas? Usual and customary, is that enough?
Well, this is a determination, a request for determination, so there's no standard order of conditions because it's an RDA.
Yeah.
The question is, does the board want to issue fines to the contractor and the homeowner for doing the work
I think we
without
have to.
approval,
We're going
to be
to continue.
consistent?
To be consistent, yes.
So, your motion?
It would be $300.
What do you want to,
You want to accept?
Is your policy 100
With
for
a-
something we would have
A
approved?
second. Let me look at my notes.
What's the question?
what would the fine be?
Let's see. Failure, starting any approved work prior to inspections, 100. Failure to comply with NOI is 100. 300, any work requiring conservation approval in wetlands or no work zone plus full restoration for 300 for the homeowner and the contractor for this work being done without conservation approval.
So do we do the
That's
300?
one.
No, that's not the one.
Yeah. A second, Lynn. That's this one.
We don't add the 100 on for the other 200, right?
What?
We don't add the other $200, 100 and 100. Just the conservation one.
I would think that would be a more important one than just starting the work.
Is this any work that was started before approval?
But that,
Yeah,
but
this says in
it's,
wetlands
which
area
is the
50
more
feet
dire,
plus soil restoration, which we're not doing.
So you're saying it
I'd say
doesn't,
it should be, it's not really included, but,
I think it was a mistake. They came here to address it.
you know?
you would have approved it, but it involved conservation land and it wasn't approved.
this is the $300 if the work is done in wetlands or in the 30 to 50 no-work zone, which did not happen. So the closest we have is a failure to comply with a notice of intent receiving certification.
Yeah, so go with that.
100 for both the homeowner and the contractor?
I'll pay both of them. It's my fault, not his.
I move that we levy a fine of $100 against the homeowner and the contractor for doing work before approval.
Yes,
Is that
Yep.
good enough?
that does it. Plus the -3, and that's the motion in front of us.
A second.
Does someone second it, please?
Second.
Yeah,
Thank
second.
you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Ladies.
Okay, we have a notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Mark Connolly, care of Cape and Islands Engineering, Inc., 800 Falmouth Road, Suite 301C, Mashpee, Mass., to construct a single-family dwelling with associated site work located on Assessor's Map, Lot 1041-A, 6 Shell Lane, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. May I have the returned, the hearings for the previous, yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, we're not used to shoveling papers. It's been a while.
Exactly.
Okay. Is there any, please identify yourself. You're here to represent the project.
Good evening, Mark Dibb, civil engineer with Cape and Islands Engineering.
Okay. Mr. Bichette will read to the project, and then you have a chance to comment. Okay.
Okay, so this project site is at 6 Shell Lane, and the project involves the installation of a driveway and a portion of a deck and concrete parking area in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland, and also in the flood zone, and also the construction of the dwelling and garage in the flood zone. A driveway access to the house lot is proposed from Shell Lane, and this is in the buffer zone to wetlands that exist on the other side of Shell Lane, which is the salt marsh and associated wetlands. Also proposed in the buffer is a portion of a concrete parking area and access stairs and landing. All of the work, including the driveway, dwelling, garage, septic system, and grading, are within the coastal flood zone. I did have a question about what is the proposed driveway surface, because it wasn't necessarily marked on the plan. The dwelling would be in a velocity flood zone, so it would be elevated on pilings. There are some grade changes proposed around the septic system. Hay bales and silt fence would be used for erosion control. So, in terms of the driveway, what is the story there?
As of right now, it's proposed to be a paved driveway. Oh, sorry. The applicant is also here if he wants to come up, and we can talk about that.
My name's Mark Conley, owner of 6 Shell Lane. It's going to be the same gravel that's in the roadway.
Okay. All right, nope, that's fine. So that was going to be my main concern. If it was paving, I would say a notice of intent should be required so that could be conditioned and addressed in terms of runoff. But if that's not the case, I would recommend a negative determination number 2, because the only work in the buffer is really that driveway and some clearing associated with that and the portions of the project, as I mentioned. So I would recommend a negative 2 for that.
Thank you. Any comments, please? Would you like to add anything?
I'm glad he's here. Otherwise, no further comments.
All right, questions on the board?
What about the retaining wall, Dave? Is that,
You're going to have to speak into the mic because even I can't hear. Sorry.
would you talk to me a little bit about the retaining wall that's being proposed?
Now,
Is there a retaining wall?
I can certainly help with that if you want to.
yeah, I'm not seeing that. Is that associated with the septic system?
It is.
Yeah.
It would be just for breakout reasons so that it wouldn't go into the parking area. Or the area under the house, not the parking area.
Yeah, this is a raised elevated house, so there'll be some area basically at grade under the house. And then there's the driveway next to that, which comes up some grade for a lesser stair into the house. And all that work is outside. The wall itself and the driveways are outside the buffer. The wall associated with that.
How high is the house to be raised?
How high is the house going to be raised? The first floor of the house is going to be at elevation 19, and the existing grade is at 10. So it's basically up on piles. There'll be area underneath the house. That'll be gravel
What is
surface.
the velocity zone? What, you said, you
It's
didn't
at
give us. you
elevation
didn't-
17,
17, VE 17?
right? And how high is that retaining wall?
It varies from, you see a 12 contour at the end, that would be a 2-foot-high wall, up to 14 to 15, so it varies from 2 feet up to,
Staining gravel underneath the house?
5.5 feet.
Pad.
That's going up.
Okay, questions? Any more? Alyssa?
No questions?
Not right
Carol?
yet.
No questions.
Kwame?
No questions, thank you.
Mike?
I do, I just, let's go with this for a second. I just do got one question. I'm not sure if it pertains to the impact of the house, but wasn't it not that long ago we approved
The roadway.
the roadway, correct? Has the roadway reconstruction started, or would that impact, or would the two interact in one way or another, or just out of curiosity?
Yes, the roadway work is complete, and
Oh,
it's
that's
actually
complete.
on tonight for certificate of compliance. Looks great, and we've met the requirements of the plans that were previously approved.
All right, that was,
And last week, the planning board lifted the covenant letter that goes along with the.
all right, I was just curious. Thank you.
Denise?
Oh, there I'm on. When I'm looking at the plan, it says a concrete pad. You're saying it's not going to be a concrete pad, it's going to be gravel underneath the house?
And also for the
No,
driveway.
The driveway is going to be gravel, but then when you drive up to the house, there'll just be a pad for the vehicles to park on.
Okay, but underneath the house, what is that? Is that where the concrete pad is going?
That's customarily concrete as well
Okay.
for runoff from the houses that I've seen.
Thank you.
I do have one more question.
Yes. Anything else on the board? My question is, how much of this land will be cleared? Just out of curiosity.
You see, there is a limit of work shown. It's only 6 feet off the edge of pavement, so just that swath. I think we have a number.
See, it's tough reading it when you,
Yeah,
I
it's
can
a-
wear double
tiny.
glasses and I still can't read.
Yeah, it's this piece of work right here. It's approximately 2,000 square feet.
Just enough to put the dwelling and
Yes.
some activity in it. So the
Correct.
backside will be,
What about the backside going from the septic and then back into the rest of the lot? What's going on there? Anything?
I don't believe he proposes any additional work outside of this
I
footprint.
want a yard about the size of this table,
I was gonna
so,
say, I don't see a lot of yard for mowing. So,
so nothing out back, really.
Okay. So the only thing, I guess, is this retaining wall. Part of that is in the velocity zone, and you're really not supposed to build vertical walls and velocity zones. So what, is there really any purpose to that other than just aesthetics? Why is that needed?
You'll see he's, basically the depiction of the stairs. So the stairs behind it, you can see there's about 8 risers, which would get from the pavement up into the first floor. And you see out front, there's a significant bigger stair. It's going to take from elevation 10 up to 19. So it's just a means of being able to access the dwelling a little bit easier with only going up 8 stairs in the back. And again, you're correct, it's outside the buffer zone, but it is, it actually, you can see the blue FZ line cuts that wall in half. So half of it is outside of the VE zone.
Yeah, so the chunk that's in it really has nothing to do with the stairs, so maybe that could be sort of
And if you-
met with the house. In
if-
that way, it would fall outside of that zone.
If you look at the elevations, the 14 contour is almost right where the wall hits the floodplain, so it's, at that point, the wall, in the flood zone, the wall is never taller than 4 feet tall. So it is relatively minimal. We may be able to make that wall go away, but we'd
Well, it's-
prefer to keep it.
The septic system, the tank, if you have the profile of the tank and the elevations on the treatment, advanced treatment system, there's a filter box that sits on top of the septic tank, and that's what pushes it up to that elevation 15 and a half, 16-ish.
Correct, yeah, and that's the portion of the wall that's outside of the flood zone.
So this chunk right here is where it's supposed to be.
inside. So what is your recommendation? They should not put it there?
Yeah, they really shouldn't put it there unless there's some specific reason why it should be there, you know? It's got nothing to do with the septic
Push
system.
this. If it's like a 2-to-1 grade, can we make that work? We can just slide this driveway over, away from the buffer, further away, make a 2-to-1 slope. We only need to make up 3 feet.
Yeah, again, as long as that's the case, I have no other problems with it.
So what's going to happen, David?
They're gonna modify that to take that chunk of the wall out of the velocity zone
Oh,
that's
yeah,
in it.
definitely. Yeah, we can grade that down.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that'll push this back driveway further away from the buffer zone. And more out of the velocity zone as well. So I think that would be an acceptable solution.
The driveway is,
So,
Do you want a continuation to see a modified plan?
but where, this is
I mean, that's up to the commission.
impermeable?
I have no problem as long as they meet that standard, because it is outside the buffer zone.
So we can, if it's desired to approve it, come back with a modified plan
Can I
for you to take a final look at.
ask
Yeah.
a question? On this, on the driveway and the future garage?
It's got to speak in the mic.
I know.
I'm not, now I am. The driveway and the future garage, these are all going to be on non-permeable surfaces.
Well, the garage is going to be on a concrete slab, but the
Right.
driveway is going to be pervious, yes.
It is,
Yep.
okay.
Is there anybody here who'd like to speak for this project, to this project? I'm seeing none. What would the board like? I need a,
You want a motion to
David, what-
continue?
What do you think, David? Can,
is it a significant change to cost for a continuation?
And you got to use the mic.
I'm,
oh, Sandy.
I bad. Sorry.
I don't think it's that significant. Again, it's outside the buffer. If the commission votes to grant the determination, we can simply wait till we have the revised plan in hand before that gets actually issued.
All right. I'm comfortable with that. How about the rest of you?
Sure.
I'm fine with that.
All right. And there's nobody here to speak to this project, so we'll take a motion to
Close the hearing.
close the hearing.
I move to close the hearing.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Thank you.
so much, I
And
appreciate
look,
it.
we're not done yet.
Wait.
We just closed the hearing.
All right.
Now we need a motion to grant.
Oh, nice.
So we need a motion to accept the project with the changes that Dave is going to okay along the retaining wall, correct?
Yes, and a -2.
And it is a -2.
Yes. So that's the motion to grant -2. With
Second.
Dave, final approval on the retaining wall adjustment, and I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Now we're done. Before you do any work, see Mr. Pichette with your updated plans.
Yeah, I'm sure I can have that, very soon, and then set up a meeting just to talk about the erosion control, and away we go. Thank you so much, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
A notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, at 6:30 p.m., on the request for determination of applicability for the Onset Island Association, care of Robert Bushnell, 11 Monroe Street, Buzzards Bay, Mass. 02532, to plant marsh grass located on Assessor's Map 1A, Lot 1001, Onset Island, Wareham, Mass. Whoop. Did I do it out of order?
What's this one?
My name is Robert Bushnell.
Robert. Thank you. We're still pushing papers, and my chair keeps falling down. I think I better default the chair. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, the other one's coming. We gotta find a better way of paper management. Okay. Thank you. We've read it in the hearing, and Mr. Bichette will speak to the project.
This project site is out on Onset Island, and this project involves planting of marsh grass in several locations around Onset Island in the locations shown on the attached site plan. Areas that traditionally had marsh grass years ago are proposed to be planted in an effort to reestablish marsh grass in these areas. A year or two ago, I believe it was now, Mr. Bushnell came in and was granted an approval to do some marsh grass planting around the pier that is out at Onset Island. And now they want to expand these areas into some other locations around the island. All of the work is just hand planting of marsh grass plugs within the areas shown on the plan, within the intertidal area. The plantings would be done, again, all solely by hand. And the commission did previously approve this sort of work. This is more expanded in terms of where they want to do this now, and I'll let Mr. Bushnell kind of speak to that. But again, the goal is to try to reestablish marsh grass in areas where it's been lost over time around the island.
Your turn.
Okay. Yeah, actually, it goes back to October of 2 years ago, when I was here last. And there were, in addition to by the island dock, there were several other areas included. So basically what we're looking to do is expand a little bit, I guess you'd say, lengthwise, and also up and down on the beach a little bit, basically to cover the area where the grass will grow in the intertidal zone. It's pretty exclusively grows below the lowest high water mark of the month and the highest low water mark of the month. In that area is where it will grow. It won't grow anyplace else. So we're learning as we go on this. And so we kind of like to, add to the width on the beach that way, and then extend just a little bit in most of the areas that were, had already started in the last 2 years.
How many, sorry,
Go.
I was just saying, how many of you are planting?
Well, there were about 3 of us that planted last year and the year before. 2 years ago, we lost everything that we planted.
Read that.
Last year, we lost approximately 1,200 plugs out of 1,800 that we started out with, because we're still in the learning phase. And we finally were able to find some people that told us we had to acclimate the plugs to salt water, which is it takes about 7 weeks to do it by gradually increasing the amount of salt water that you water them with. So, so we've just started planting to complete some of the areas that we had been okayed for 2 years ago. We've just been, in the last 10 days, been planting in those areas. And right now, there's myself and one other retiree who have time to do it, and then we've had, I think, 3 or 4 other people that have helped us, 1 or 2 times, and I have a couple of volunteers, different volunteers tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll have a lot of people before we're finished.
Good.
Yeah, but no one likes to do it too long because it's backbreaking, a lot of bending.
Carol,
No questions.
for me?
Yeah, quick question. So what happens during hurricane season? I mean, you're going to lose all that and you have to replant all over again and all that other good stuff?
No,
Or?
it doesn't die. It's like all grass. Your lawn grass turns brown and dries up and goes away. The same with this. If you go past a marsh, you can see in the winter that it's the tall grass, and it's pretty strong stuff once it's full grown. So it'll last probably halfway through the summer, the following summer, before it is washed away. But the root system lives, unless the Canada geese eat it. And I did not, part of the reasons we started this, because we knew we were losing a lot, and I was blaming people that I never saw. I thought there were people coming over to clam, and we haven't had any clams there in years. And then I called the harbor master to see if we could get a sign posted, with, no clamming. And he said, it's not clammers, it's the Canada geese. So what they do is they come in at high tide and they use their flippers to create a current over the plants. and it basically washes away the sand that cover the roots, and then they eat the roots. And I think they do it later in the winter when they're running out of anything else to eat. So last year, I tried fencing it with the orange construction fence, and it kept them out of those areas. So I'm planning to do the same thing this winter, and probably for a couple of years until it's really well established, and then we'll back off and see if we can allow them to go back and have a little bit, as long as it's not too much.
Thank you.
Michael?
No questions, thank you.
Denise?
No questions, thank you.
Anything else? Is there anybody here in the audience who wants to speak to this project?
I move that we close the hearing.
Yes, please.
Second? Oh,
I
I
have,
did, you're right.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed, 500.
Move that we accept the project as stated.
I have that motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Notice of
Does he
public,
need to see you before he starts planting?
Yeah, for the paperwork.
Yep, you need to get your paperwork from Dave before you start planting.
I need to what?
You need to come back and get your paperwork from Dave before you start to
I will
plant.
do that.
Okay.
notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. On the notice of intent for Ken Anderson, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, to upgrade a septic system located on Assessor's Map 129B-2, Lot 1810, Boynton Ave, Wareham, Mass.
And who's here to present this project?
Good evening, Brian Grady with GAF Engineering.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette, your turn.
Okay, so this project site is at 10 Boynton Ave, and this project involves upgrading a septic system at this site in the buffer zone to wetland, which is the pond in that area. The existing septic system is to be replaced with a new Title V nitrogen-reducing septic system. The new leach field would be approximately 57 feet from the edge of the wetland, which is really the furthest place where it could be located. This is a very small lot, and there's just no room to locate the system further away than what they've got it proposed as, which is between the house and the road. Erosion control would be put in place between the work and the resource area. We did get a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions for this project.
I move that we approve this project with,
Questions?
Oh. sorry, no questions.
Hey, Lisa, nothing? Amy,
No questions.
Michael,
None.
Denise?
None, thank you.
Brian, was there anything you wanted to add before I start? I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you if you had anything to add.
I have nothing to add at this time. If you have any questions,
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this project? I'm seeing none. Now we can close.
Move to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Accept the project as presented with standard order and conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. See, Dave, before you start the work, thank you.
well, thank you.
I mean,
Notice of public hearing Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. On Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. On the notice of intent for William H. and Jean C. Whalen, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, to approve a concrete block retaining wall previously constructed located on Assessor's Map 7B3, Lot 228, 11 Gitchigumi Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Who's here to speak to this project?
Madam Chairman, Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering, and William Whalen is here as well.
Thank you.
No, we only need one.
Yeah.
All set?
All set, your turn.
Okay, so this site is at 11 Gitchigumi Road in the Indian Mountain Beach area, and this is an after-the-fact filing for work that was done at this site that involved the installation of a concrete block retaining wall along the top of the coastal bank at this site. A concrete block wall with a base layer of stone, approximately 43 feet in length, was installed along the top of the coastal bank with no approval from the commission. The owner stated that the wall was installed to help address an erosion problem at the site. A portion of the wall was built over the property line onto the neighbor's lot. There was also a drain pipe that had been installed to outlet runoff water from the site out onto the coastal bank. The wall is approximately 2.5 feet to 3 feet above the grade at the site at its high point. There really wasn't a good detail provided as to how the structure was built, so that is something that the commission should see. The concrete block wall and drain pipe are not structures, in my opinion, that would have been permitted as constructed. So again, this is not a seawall, but rather just a large retaining wall with the intent to grade behind it to level out the area and to contain runoff. This could adversely impact the stability of the coastal bank, and it is within the 30-foot no-activity zone to the top of the coastal bank. A plan utilizing a more softer method of stabilization would have likely been required for this setting for this problem. Also proposed as part of this application is to reconstruct 2 existing decks at the site. These are also within the 30-foot no-activity zone, but these are existing, so those should be approved to be done. So at this point, I would recommend that the wall not be approved as it's constructed and removed, and that should be stabilized in a different manner with an alternate plan to address the erosion problem. So I would recommend that this be continued at this point to discuss these options and how to address the existing wall that's there.
Thank you.
Is that you speaking?
That's me
Those are your
speaking.
words, so I mean, I don't know if you're reading from somebody else's.
No, that's just my notes.
Bob, anything
Seen
to?
Yes,
Paul?
excuse me, Mr. Whalen. Yes, Madam Chair. So I guess for my clarification, Dave, where's the drain? Do you know where you think the drain pipe's
It's on that end that's closest to where the wall went over the property line.
Okay. All right. So, you know, of course, we at GAF are familiar with these types of situations, and I guess one of the resource areas that's maybe most difficult for a layperson to recognize is a coastal bank. If it's, meets the definition under the Wetlands Protection Act, but it's perceived as being the edge of someone's yard. We did have a little bit of coordination with the Whalens to include, work that we felt would be acceptable in terms of the maintenance to the decks and to the structure, with no increase in the square footage. And so, and of course, once you're in a position of having spent money and now you're spending more money on an engineer, there's an expectation of a client that the consultant will at least give a best effort and attempt to request if there's any mitigation that could be proposed, rather than just a straight up removal and replacement of the wall. But, so, we did let them know that had they come to us in the beginning with what they wanted to do, we could have advised them in advance that the retaining wall isn't something that would have been permitted by this commission. So, we're just going to continue to work with the Whalens to try and come up with the best solution that we can that gives them the yard that they want and protects the environment and protects the integrity of the coastal bank.
Okay. Mr. Whalen, do you have something to add?
Well, before we initiated this whole process, I looked around at the places in Wareham and see what people were doing, including my neighborhood, but also other places. Tempest Knob, that area, looking out across. And I saw a lot of the same, including two of my neighbors, have essentially the same thing. And one neighbor's deck extends outward towards the water, towards the wetlands, considerably more by a number of feet than our work. And the other thing I probably should have said first is, this is, I'm going to kind of invoke the whole pandemic thing, because we didn't do anything we had no intention to avoid doing the thing the proper way. But I came to the town hall a number of times during the pandemic, and the thing was buttoned up. You knock on every door, nothing happened. I did that at least 3 times, and the last time I did it was, I remember it was shortly before Election Day, because I used the Dropbox. And so I just want to make that clear that I don't understand, maybe I'm speaking ahead of what you're going to say, I don't know, but I just think that these are unreasonable times, extreme times. And what we did was not to avoid a hassle, because we're in a hassle right now. And the expenditure of, a few $100s for permits and such. But that's where we found ourselves. So, well, it was like we were out, and I could tell you a story which you wouldn't allow me the time to tell it, because it's to do with government, it's to do with town hall, and it's to do with the state, it's to do with the registry, try to transfer plates from another state to this, and blah, blah, blah. That took months, and the only way I got it done was calling the governor's office ultimately. And I started at the bottom, the chain of command kind of thing, starting with town hall and the reps and the state people, and then the Congress. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on. But the point is that we weren't trying to avoid anything. It's just that there was nobody to talk to.
Dave, when did we first look at this property? Was it given to us as a enforcement order?
Yes, Madam Chair. This initiated as an enforcement order. It goes back to January.
Because I do remember going down and looking at it, and they were putting in soil behind the stone wall with a little tiny bobcat. So that was back in,
Mid to late January.
I was going to say.
We did our survey in May.
All the trees didn't have leaves, so it had to be in the winter.
Oh, it was the winter.
No, when I went.
Oh, when you- I'm sorry.
when
I have
went
some
down.
pictures if people haven't been to the site. We will be continuing tonight for a couple of reasons, one of which is no file number. You know, I would ask the Whalens to cooperate with the commission in terms of entering the site. It's the commission's right once the filing has been made. But I do have just one set of pictures that I could share if you
Now-
want, if you like. If not,
We did visit the site, we did knock on the door
why
and
don't you bring
no,
'em up?
I
and no
spoke
one,
with
an-
one of the inspectors. He came and talked to me
no,
for...
conservation members went to your site, knocked on the door, and did proceed to the property to take a look at the wall.
In January?
No, he's
No.
talking like this week.
This week.
This week?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh.
When I went there, because it was a enforcement order, I went to your neighbor's property and took the picture. I did not go on your property.
You
Back
couldn't-
in-
You're
back
welcome
in
to go on the
November,
property,
But it was
yeah.
just, it was, yeah, so.
You saw, you know, it's not really an issue.
So how much fill have you put in behind the stone wall?
You'd have to speak to the...
in one of the photos, you can see a small strip of disturbed earth behind the wall. I don't think it's much in terms of a height, and it might be a 3 or 4 foot wide strip. On our plan, there's a label for fill and disturbed area.
Well, we'll start with the questions. Alyssa?
All right, I do have a couple of questions other than the ones that you brought up, and that is that when you're devising a plan,
They cannot hear you.
I
You're
can't
gonna-
hear you either.
can't
No,
hear
the
me. All right, is
TV
that better?
can't.
Yes.
Oh.
All right. One will be, I believe there used to be stairs going down. Looks like there's something there.
There still are. There still are stairs
Not
there.
ones that you'd really want to walk on, though.
Correct.
Yeah. So, you know, I wanted to sort of bring that up because that, of course, will be included with your plan in some way, I imagine.
Well, we would certainly work on that, but that's, again, off of their property, so.
The stairs are not on their property.
Correct.
Is that correct?
There's a long strip of land that's owned by the trustees of reservations.
I thought that was a horizontal. It's vertical as well?
It's, well, from the property line down to the shoreline and
Yes.
for quite a ways north and south.
Okay, yep.
It's a very large lot
Right.
controlled by the trustees of reservations.
And I did
so-
notice that their neighbor has made pathways through that land and has chairs sitting down there.
Right.
You know, so again, you know, it's a real problem for us to try to, you know, the owners of that property probably would be, you know, interested in what's going to be done, I would guess.
Can I
Yeah.
ask you a question in what regard?
Why the owners? Well, because if you build stairs going down and a pathway going out to the water, you're crossing on those people's land.
What people?
The trustees of reservations
Oh,
own
okay, because
the
I thought you were
property.
talking about my budding neighbor. you know.
No,
All right.
no, no.
That's its own separate lot. Lot
It's
1,000.
like, it goes across. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Let's see.
Again, it's a situation where people, when they purchase the property,
I
I'm
know.
sure the stairs were there, and there's an inference, you know, not trying to point fingers at anyone, but there's, you know, sort of an expectation that, oh, well, this is our backyard, and these are
Yeah.
our stairs that go down to the beach.
But
and
it's true. And
But,
all that old famous thing about buyer beware and that
so-
sort of thing.
Yes,
But-
so I would make a commitment that we would address those stairs one
Thank
way
you.
or the other,
Thank you.
you know, as we revise this.
Great.
Carol?
No questions.
Kwame?
Yeah, I think I just have to get my bearings right and probably have to revisit the site, because when I went down there, it's a private beach area, right? That's how you get down there, and then his house is on the right? Was on the left? 'Cause was
yeah, I
way
don't-
off.
Yeah, it's just, the houses are just right on the street, and then the
Yep.
land in the back goes back to the marsh, and then the beach and the water.
I was way off, so I have to go back and visit the site, and I apologize.
If I can help you, I'll do that. I don't know, there's no private beach area, really.
No.
No,
We
but
are-
it
There's a
says,
beach association, I'm a member of that.
yeah.
And then the land, according to my, the lawyer I had, who was that's what he does. When I bought the property, he was telling me it was, I can't remember the term, is it registered land or certified or something like that?
Land court, yes, so it's
Yeah.
registered land.
Yeah, so it's registered land. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, that means that it's your land to the high water mark. Now, that's what the attorney said at the closing, that's like 17 years ago. But, so, everything from, I guess what you're saying is everything from that period under which I was of the belief that that was true is wrong, right? Saying that's in error.
Right.
So what's the difference then between certified land and uncertified land?
Well, you have registered land, he misrepresented your property or mistakenly.
Mistake.
You have a 50 by 100 foot lot,
Yeah.
and that's what you have, and that's the entire boundary of the property. So no one should have said to you that you had rights to go beyond that, and
No, I'm not
Yeah.
implying that. Well, what I took from it was that, it's kind of like, to the, over the hill kind of thing.
It looks like it goes down to the water, but it just doesn't. I mean, Dave is the one who was telling us when we looked where the boundary lines were. And, it was surprising, because if you went there and you didn't know, how would
Yeah,
you know?
it is kind of mysterious. The other thing is there are whole sets of stairs. I mean, we and our neighbor are not the only ones that have stairs down to that marsh. And they were there, when we bought it, and I have no idea when those were put in.
Mike,
No questions this time, thank you.
Denise?
I don't have a question. I'm just glad that you're working together and going to resolve the issue.
thank you.
Actually, this is the first time I met him.
You're lucky.
So
So
I'm
what-
concerned at how much fill got, that wall is how many bricks high? 4, 5?
I don't know if you could share that picture.
Yeah, I don't think anything was, or very little was brought in off property.
Well,
It's something certainly I would
Yes,
ask
I was
you
going to say,
to
based on this picture,
speak with
yeah.
I would ask to speak with the contractor, even
He's here.
to the extent that, we would know to what depth we would need to go down to excavate to remove the base.
And what is the foundation under these blocks?
Would the contractor be willing to come up and provide that information?
Sandy?
Hello,
Please identify yourself.
James Lavelle.
Thank you. I guess my question is, I can see nice blocks stacked on to make the wall, but what is the foundation?
It's built out of 6 to 8 inches of
Crushed stone?
3/4 stone, and it was machine compacted.
Okay.
So I'll work with the owner and the contractor to get the correct information that we need. We don't have the file number. We probably, I'm guessing, would be looking at a 4-week continuance, that we wouldn't have everything squared away in 2 weeks, but,
Yeah, but whatever you think.
probably your second meeting in August, we would be in position to provide a new plan with a remedy.
I think it's the 18th.
Might be looking longer than that.
I think the 14th is the
So
second week.
Sandy, can we move
That would
to-
be 8, 4, and 7, 14.
7.
It's, unless you just wanted to put us on for 2 weeks so that we come back and then, or, if we don't have anything, we would request a continuance by email. It's
Yeah,
up
If
to
you
you.
think it's 4 weeks you need, why would we want to cut it short?
I have,
Yeah.
I have a question on the date. What would the date be?
I'm working on it.
It would be the 18th,
Eight,
August
Oh, okay.
18th.
I just didn't want to come on my anniversary. That would be,
August 18th is a month away, 4 weeks away.
okay.
Yes, that sounds,
That gives you a chance to do some more research and tell us, maybe you have a solution by that time, a recommendation for what can be done.
Sure, we've got some experience with the coir rolls and the coir logs and plantings and things of that nature, just to make sure that the edge of the coastal bank, is stable for them. And then, certainly we want to, get the approval to, just to do maintenance repairs to the back of the structure.
And get rid of that drain pipe and,
Yeah, I'll take a look at that and see where it's coming from.
and the encroachment into the neighbor's yard,
Well, if we end up,
unless they're willing to keep it.
yeah, well, I don't see the commission being willing to keep
No.
it, so I don't think we want to, exacerbate this any further.
Okay. Is there anybody who would like to speak to this project in the audience? If not, I'll take a motion to continue until August 18th.
Move to continue till August 18th.
That's the motion.
Second?
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
18th of August. We'll see you back.
thank you.
Okay.
You want your pictures?
Yeah.
Bob? We'll put them for the folder.
I've got a bunch of pictures. I'll bring them in a second.
Ready? Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. On Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. The notice of intent for Russell J. and Tina Yule, care of J.C. Engineering, Inc., 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Mass. 02538, to reconstruct a stone revetment and timber retaining wall located on Assessor's Map 28, lots 47, 48, and 1007, 17A, and 21 Bayberry Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
My plan is so tiny I can't.
Here, use this one.
I've tried to read this one.
Let's see this one.
Thank you. You can share.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Dave, your turn.
Okay, so this project site is at 17 and 21A Bayberry Road, and the project involves the modification of a stone revetment and the reconstruction of a timber retaining wall along a coastal bank and within a coastal flood zone. It is proposed to add additional height to an existing sloped stone revetment by adding another layer of stone to the top of that existing revetment. It's proposed to raise the height of the revetment by approximately 2.5 feet from its current height. On a portion of the existing revetment, there's a timber wall with riprap stone behind it, and this would be removed and the new stone layer added to the top of the revetment in its place. The additional height would be added to the existing stone revetment, which is approximately 210 feet in length. Some fill and a 6-foot wide trap rock strip along the back of the new stone would be proposed as well. I did speak to Brad about asking what the volume of fill would be that would be necessary to accomplish that, so we can talk about that. I also had a question, I guess, just in general, in terms of what the purpose of the raising of the wall height is for. This is a velocity flood zone with a very high flood elevation, so raising it by the 2.5 feet isn't really going to accomplish anything in terms of preventing flood damage to this site. I guess in some very minor situations it might help. So I'd like to just talk about that as well. It's also proposed to remove a section of existing timber retaining wall, which is at the end of the stone revetment, and then reconstruct a new timber retaining wall in its place. So again, this isn't a velocity flood zone, and typically you wouldn't want to see a vertical wall constructed in a velocity flood zone. So if this is going to be totally removed and replaced, then I would recommend that something similar to what is there in some sort of a sloping revetment be put back instead of a vertical retaining wall. I also did ask about getting some better detail on the construction methodology of with elevations included for the proposed stonework and the retaining wall, if that's to be entertained. We did get a DEP file number for this project, but at this time I would recommend a continuance of the hearing to discuss modifying the plan based on the comments that I've made.
Thank you. Again, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering. I did pass out some pictures to kind of show those that haven't been to the site. I do recommend a site visit if you haven't been there, to take a look at what's there. Currently, this area is a coastal bank protected by a timber wall and a stone revetment. Portions of that timber wall remaining. A guess on an age could be 40 or 50 years. I don't know the age of those timbers. There is a section that was originally timbers, which has completely washed away, probably from past storm events, and then an existing stone revetment that's in pretty decent shape. There are timbers installed above the top of the revetment that are starting to erode, and that was the intention, to bring the grade up to that point. The top of that existing timber wall that's situated above the revetment is approximately elevation 8.2 to 7.3. Varies roughly about a foot in elevation across the length of it. We propose to go up just a little higher than that to 8.5, which is about a foot higher than the current timber wall. And as David mentioned, it's more like 2 feet to 2.5 feet on the southern end of the revetment, where there is no timber wall extension. We just looked at the grades of the site, and erosion along this coastal bank can come from two directions. Obviously, one from a storm event, and two from surface water runoff over the top of it. So typically, we like to see the top of revetment be a little higher than the grade in the yard, and the grade pitch away from the revetment, so that surface water runoff's not running over the top and causing erosion along the bank. I did speak to Dave, and to answer his question on the fill, I looked at it today, and it was probably about 100 yards total between a combination of the revetment stones, fill behind a portion of the timber wall, and the area that's proposed to be riprap, which is about a 6-foot strip. You can see that there is an area that's currently protected by riprap. Kind of helps with splash over as the waves come up over the top of a revetment. So we obviously are looking to keep the costs down on the project. We could definitely look at running a revetment the whole direction, but we felt that maybe if we could keep a portion of that timber wall that's currently there and just replace that section, that would involve, we can look at those grades, the top elevation, to see if we can minimize the construction of that, as opposed to completely taking it out and setting toe stones and running that up. to an elevation that we have proposed or a different elevation. As you can see in a couple of those pictures, this area is kind of centered in between two groins, and right in the location of this revetment that has a timber wall above it. It's kind of has a minimal beachfront in front of it, while north and south has a decent set of, or decent amount of beach and elevation in front of that location, specifically out by the timber wall. So we felt the timber wall would be appropriate and more cost-effective to replace, knowing that it's not subject to normal tidal range. It would just be a storm event wall, or a storm event that would impact the wall. And it varies in height from about 1 foot to about 2.5 feet now. So we can look at maybe trying to maintain those elevations in that portion. Again, I was hoping to get some input from this commission in regards to what they'd like to see or what we could permit in that area, so that a revised plan could be prepared for the next hearing. We do offer up extending the revetment up to the stairway to remove, to eliminate the timber wall in the area that's completely void of any revetment or timber. It's shown on the pictures I submitted, and it's located just south of the stairway. The stairway that's proposed is proposed in the exact same location that it is today. So from that stairway to the south would be full revetment construction with toe stones for that first, I believe it's probably about 30 feet. And then from that point south, it'd just be variable between, roughly 2 feet more of stone along the rest of the rest of the revetment. We have no issues with revising the plan to add some more elevation details, but I was hoping to get some thoughts on whether or not the commission will allow a portion of this at least to remain as timber.
Okay, so if I take a, I sort of gave us a lot. I need to take it in piecemeal. If we take a look at where you're proposing the steps.
Speak into your,
Yeah, I'm trying.
thanks.
Thank you.
I couldn't hear you.
I'm trying to put this in segments so I understand it. If I take a look at where the stairs are now, to the north, there are wooden
Timbers.
What do you propose from the stairs going north? I'm going to ask you to repeat it. What are you planning to do with that section from the stairs north to the property line, which have timbers on them now?
As proposed, we would like to rebuild them with timbers.
Okay, so the whole, some of them, I can see sometimes they're 6 high and 4 high going down to 2 high. I mean, they're sort of, so there will be a gradual type replacement, or all the same, or will you make them all the same height?
It's gradual because the beach changes in elevation. We're proposing the top to be the same. So yes, it would taper down as they build from the south to the north, vice versa.
And this is the area you're concerned about because it is flat. It's not sloped to take a wave better. And how high over the grass area is the top?
In that location,
Yes.
the timber wall, top of elevation varies between 7.1 and 6.3. So we were looking to add approximately 2 more layers above that to get to about elevation 8.5. And again, allow for the placement of riprap and just a little fill to slope back towards the dwelling so that no surface water runoff is.
So you'll be adding stone in front of these timbers?
On top,
On top?
yeah.
Or behind the wall, correct.
So
yes.
there won't be that, the water goes over the wall, and then the water has to drain out, and you've got that accommodated by putting in stone behind. the timbers.
To help with drainage and erosion. Currently, right now, it's all grass
Okay.
for the most of this, right up to the
Yes.
top of their,
Very nice green grass, and I'm going to ask how much fertilizer is being placed on that grass. Okay, now from the stairs south to what you have as, big rocks. Okay, what were you planning to do with that section from the stairs to where you got the big rocks?
as proposed,
Yes.
it was timber, because I believe that was what was there originally.
Yep, there are timbers there now with little rocks behind,
Yeah.
sorry, I don't have the right words, with little rocks behind them.
Yeah.
And you-
So either that was from age, fell apart, or storm events. You can look at the picture of the stairs, you can see that
Yep.
where the walls jet into the bank, they're not like tied correctly together.
No,
and
they got holes in them, they got
Yeah.
gaps, yes.
So,
Okay,
as proposed, it's timber. That would be the tallest section of wall. And if there's concerns, we have no issue to revise that section to be revetment or stone revetment, kind of extend it.
and from that site we just talked about, all the way down to the south, there's big rocks.
Stone
With
revetment.
with some timber, and behind that, you've got the smaller rocks, and you'll raise that.
Yes.
Remove the smaller rocks and put something else in its place? Did I,
We will remove the current riprap
Yep.
and remove the current timber wall that's constructed
Yep.
on top of the existing stone
and
revetment.
put in new big stones?
Extend the top of the revetment, which will remove probably the top capstones and minor excavation behind it to put filter fabric and more stones and cobbles behind larger 1-ton to 3-ton stones.
I'm looking this project as 3 separate components, just trying for my head to get around this big 200 and some odd. Okay, questions now.
I have a question, and that is, what about walkers on the beach? You know, this area is an area a lot of people come from the town beach, walking over toward the dike. And with this height that you're adding, it seems to me that people supposed to walk, be able to use from high water mark down? Be able to, right now, people walk on the top of those large 2-ton or more stones that you have there. What about the people who walk that area?
I don't think what we're proposing is going to impact any access. All the work that we're doing is on private property or above any mean high water elevation, so we're not impacting access to anybody that walks along the beachfront, north or south across the face of this property.
I guess my question would be, is the ownership from the base of the very large rocks, or is it from the top where the grass is? And if it's where the grass is, then that riprap, you know, I'm not quite getting who owns what and who's going to use what when you add this height that you're adding. I mean, an 8-foot wall is pretty big.
Well, it's elevation 8 is what we're coming up to.
Right, I do understand that.
Yep. So whatever's proposed to be extended above the revetment is all on private property. It's not touching, it's all landward of the existing revetment, which is currently sloped, and the portion of those sloped stones are on private, it's the association property, Bayview Associates owns that. It's also private property.
So they own it and it's private property?
It's part of the association, yes.
It's part of the association
Yeah.
is what it is, yeah.
But it's, obviously, the public have the right to go in that mean high water below, and all our work's above that elevation, so.
All right. That's for a lawyer to decide as to where people can walk, but you are concerned that this modification would make it harder for people to walk that area?
That's my question.
Yep.
That's my question.
Yep. Well, all right, Carol?
No questions.
Kwame?
Yeah, so that's like the highest portion on that estate, right? I mean, the abutters are not that high. Like, as far as you look at the sloping, it's not even that high, right?
The abutters?
Yeah. I mean, it has nothing to do with the abutters really, but, I mean, when I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's, it's pretty steep. But is that because of the water level is raised up, is gonna be going that high, and that's why you're going to?
Yeah, I looked at
No.
replacing the timbers that are eroded on top of the revetment
Yeah,
and come up with something that's more permanent.
right,
And obviously, that comes with a
Yeah.
higher cost than timber.
right,
So that was the reason we went with that route in that section.
right. And
But yeah, we kept the top of the revetment, top of the timber walls, not much more than a foot and a half higher than what's there today,
right,
just to allow grade to pitch back away from the revetment. It is relatively flat out there, but it does have some grade change from the
Right.
house down towards the water.
No, thanks.
I have a question,
Michael,
Sandy.
no,
Hold on, I think.
Michael,
My turn, or?
your turn. I'll
Okay.
get back to
I
her.
have one, maybe two here. We mentioned about putting the retaining wall, that wouldn't have any impacts at all on the beach or in that area. Any impacts, correct?
Say that again?
What was your statement again about the retaining wall and any erosion, that would have any impacts at all down by the beach area at all?
I think the question that I answered was, they were concerned about access along the water.
No. Earlier in your statement, you mentioned that putting the retaining wall wouldn't have any impact on environmentally down by the beach below. That was one statement you had earlier.
I am proposing the wall to try to lessen the impacts of surface water runoff.
Okay. Why don't I just move on to my second question then? In the event of a hurricane or a storm, would the water that happens to, say, smash off that wall, would that have any impacts on any of the neighboring houses? Because I do know there are maybe, 2 or 3 neighboring houses in that general vicinity.
Well, it's currently wall there today, so I don't think
Correct.
it'd be any more impact than what's there today.
That wouldn't have any greater impact, though.
We're
Having a larger wall, the water wouldn't
not with
smash
the
off that wall.
increased
and then-
height, I don't believe so, because it is a relatively low elevation
But that
compared
land
to a
is-
very high velocity zone.
But that land is flat, though, and putting a larger wall that may smash, the water may go, I'm trying to think of a good example.
To the low elevation.
I'm sorry?
It's flat.
Correct, the water will go. Correct, exactly. That I guess is a good way to put it. The water may actually go around, and then I'm trying to think, the houses that are on the houses to say the right side, to where that house is located, would have any impact at all to the houses over there, or a greater impact?
I don't think so because there's an existing wall there now compared to what we're proposing. If we're proposing something where there was no revetment or no type of any revetment or coastal bank stabilization, then there's a chance that we'd have to look at potential end scour on a storm event. Again, this is not in the tidal zone, so it's not just from high and low tides. It's a storm event that would come in. Obviously, I believe that the yard has either been maintained or hasn't had much erosion on the yard itself. There is some some erosion right next to the revetment and timber wall, and maybe from age that fell apart. Again, we weren't on this project when there was a wall there, so we don't know when it had collapsed. But I think that because we have something there today, I think any proposal to fix this will be minimal impact to any abutting properties.
Okay,
All right, go ahead. Ken.
please.
He's ready.
I think my main concerns are with the height that you're talking about going with this wall. with access to the beaches and stuff, I think that's going to be affected if you put an 8-foot wall in where there isn't an 8-foot wall now. And I think that the timbers, you're also talking about raising up that timber wall higher?
Yes, the timber wall.
About how much higher was that one?
It's currently about 1.5 feet.
Yeah, those are concerns of mine. I don't understand or see the reasoning other than, I don't know, why you're raising the wall so much.
It's just because we're trying to take care of one of the issues that can cause erosion to a coastal bank, and that would be surface water runoff. So if we can get...
But I don't see that as having happened here at all. I mean, I see that there's an older wooden wall that needs to be fixed.
Yep.
I don't see where you have to start raising it feet into the air. It's just a concern of mine.
Yeah. If I could address the access, I don't know what the concerns are. There is a stairway to get to the beach from this
Right, but
property
people
owner.
walk along that beach. People get up on that wall, they walk along that wall to go around the corner. You're going to cut all that off by making this 8 foot high.
I don't believe so, no. I mean, they
wow.
probably shouldn't be walking on private property.
Is
If
that
they're
wall
walking above,
the wall is private property.
it's on private property, yes.
It's on association property.
It's on association
Yeah, there's-
property.
there's-
The difference.
It's right along the property line,
Association.
so if they walked on the east side, they're on my client's property. If they're on the other side, they're in the association or below mean high water where they have the rights.
All right, I'm going to have to go back and take a
Yeah.
look at it.
I recommend taking a site visit, and I can
I was out
notify
on
the
Monday,
property owner and I can meet you on site to answer questions if that's something that's allowable or you'd like to do.
Carol, you had something else?
Yes, my question is, the construction of the raising of the vetment and the construction of the wall, would that be done from the property side or from the ocean side?
All access will be from the property side. They'll run down the driveway with the equipment. No equipment's on the beach, or will be on the beach.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak to this project?
Andy, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How many tons of rock are you bringing in?
How many tons of
Or
rock?
whatever. I mean, I know some of them are going to be huge, huge rocks. How much more are you going to be adding to that wall?
The wall, it's the current revetment above it, we're adding about 2 feet. So
No, I meant, but
the boulders will be probably like 1 to 3 ton boulders that
Yeah.
similar to what's there today.
all right, I don't have a sense of how much it is. If you tell me how many truckloads of those boulders are coming in, it probably would be easier for me to visualize.
Yeah, I didn't distinguish. I had a total of about 100 yards of material being
Okay.
brought, but that includes everything for the full site. I would think,
The 100 yards you're talking about is including all the stone needed plus all the fill?
just the volume, yeah, yep.
Okay.
It's in an areas that's north of the stairway, it's maybe a foot of fill right at the timbers and the backing material to hold it. And then further down, where the revetments are, the revetment is, top of that revetment's 6.5, and it varies maybe down to 6, top of revetment. So in that case there, it's about 2.5 feet. Just in that specific area, it's maybe a 6-foot depth with stone and filter fabric. And the boulders themselves, it probably might only be 1 or 2 rows of boulders of similar size.
So boulders and whatever fill, you're
Whatever,
saying is
yeah,
about
cobbles
100,
and
you're saying about 100 yards, including the soil that might be needed to flatten that out. Okay.
Yep.
So in your profile B, if you can, it says the existing revetment will to remain, existing retaining wall and riprap to be removed, then a 6-foot wide strip of, 6 feet wide strip of 6-inch riprap stones will be replacing it, right?
That area is currently, there's a timber wall above the revetment.
Yes,
We want to
there is,
replace
yes.
that, so that means it has to come out,
So that
then it'll be
timber will be replaced with
stones,
stones.
revetment stones.
Big ones.
Yep.
Sorry, I need to say big ones. Then behind it, you're going to replace what is there now with a different type of stone?
Similar the same type of strip that you see in that picture, would like to maintain.
Okay, so you're going to remove it, put in the big stones, and then put it back? Put the little ones back? Riprap. I gotta get it right. I gotta get the terms right. So that will be removed and then replaced
Yes.
back in it.
Every time it's high tide. Every time it's high tide.
Then what will you do with the soil that, you're going to be digging up this yard immensely with vehicles and equipment, right?
He's aware that the grass would have to be repaired. He wasn't very happy about that, but
I mean, we will very well say that if we did this, approve this with standard order conditions, it will be low nitrogen, slow releasing. I will not come back to see a whole beautiful lawn like there is now. To me, that's just, I don't know how he can maintain that lawn without putting a lot of nitrogen fertilizer on it. But that's too close to the water for that. But okay, so we're looking at continuing this for a discussion of sloping. And what was that? What was the other reason for continuing? Do we have a DEP?
Was it the grass?
Yeah, we do have a DEP number, but it was to do with plan revisions and discussion about the timber wall, whether it's going to be replaced with another timber wall or whether the commission's going to want to see something else. I'd like to meet with Brad there and kind of go over that a little bit more.
That's the section from the stairs southward.
Or with all of it,
All of it.
honestly. That's what I'd
Okay.
like to look at and go over.
So we will, is there anybody, did I ask if there's anybody here who wants to speak to this project? If not, I'll ask for a continuation until the 4th of August. Good enough for you, Brad? Okay.
I move that we continue this hearing to the 4th of August.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We're continued until the 4th for you and Dave to work on it. I know you weren't involved, but we had a prior, were you involved with Lockwood Architects in the 2 previous order of conditions and amended orders?
not me specifically, but our firm did, yes. I mean, if there were comments that you want to mention, I could write them
I
down.
believe, yes, they put water and
Electric.
electricity to their shed.
Shed.
And it's never been included in any of the order of conditions.
I can look into that. I thought there was an amendment to include
The
that.
amendment was only to put in the driveway. But there's not in the original order of conditions from May 20th or the amendment on March 3rd of 2021, absolutely nothing about the plans for putting utilities, water, and electricity to their shed.
I'll look into it, and
Thank you.
thank you.
Notice of public hearing? Pursuant
Yep.
Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. on the amendment order of conditions for Mass Audubon, care of BSC Group, 349 Main Street, Unit D, West Yarmouth, Mass. 02673, to amend the order of conditions to include an invasive species management plan and to plant native species for property located on Assessor's Map 25, Lot 1000, 226 Great Neck Road.
Thank you. And who please identify yourself?
Hey, yeah, I'm Paul Mancuso from BSC Group, here on behalf of the Mass Audubon Society.
Paul, right? Yep. Thank you. All right, Mr. Bichette.
Yeah, so this project site is at 226 Great Neck Road, which is the Sacred Heart Seminary that is now the Mass Audubon property. Previously, we had issued an order of conditions at this site to include the removal of some structures at this site, which were in the buffer zone to wetland resource areas. And so that also included the removal of an existing concrete court, squash, basketball. It was used, I think, for several things. So that's what the original order was for, and they're requesting now an amendment to also include the ability to treat invasive plant species such as Phragmites at the site, and also to be able to plant some native species at the site. And I'll let the consultant kind of speak to that in greater detail. Generally speaking, in terms of looking at what they want to do, I have no problem with the proposed amendments, with the added conditions that any herbicide application be done by a Mass licensed herbicide applicator.
Hey, Paul, would you like to comment, please?
I mean, that's pretty much it. I brought our plan, so there's 3 different areas. They're basically just spaced out by which invasive species are present in those areas. Treatment area 1 has a lot of invasive woody species, Adriatic bittersweet, and Japanese barberry, and there were a couple others. And then the second area is dominated by Phragmites, so we'll be treating that. And then the third area is kind of a mix of Phragmites and woody species. And so the plan is to either manually or mechanically cut the invasive species first towards the end of the summer, and then they will be wiped and treated with glyphosate, which is an EPA-approved herbicide, and they'll monitor that, and then in the spring they'll come back, and anything that's still remaining they'll use a foliar spray. And they plan to do this for a few years with the knowledge that the existing order is set to expire, I think, in 2 years, so they would come back prior to that expiration asking for an extension. But that's pretty much it. Just some invasive species removal in the areas shown on the plan.
So the first attempt will cut first, manually cutting, or you're going to get in there with a lawnmower and take care of it?
Manually and mechanical. I mean, some of the vines I think are pretty thick, and some of the shrubs they might need a chainsaw and things of that nature. But some of the hanging vines you can probably use clippers and things like that. But so
that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nasties in there.
It's a big area, yeah.
I noticed a tremendous amount of grapevine.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to cut first in the late summer, treat with some chemical herbicides as you come into the winter, and then treat again in the spring for anything that comes back. So
yep,
those
and that'll be an annual thing.
All right. Questions? Alyssa?
None.
Carol?
No questions.
Kwame?
No questions, thanks.
Michael?
Just a couple questions here. This may not necessarily be our issue, but there's the building in there. Has that been taken care of by the Historical Society or not?
What?
The building.
The building.
Yeah, there's a building in there. This is,
You mean the one that has the garage doors and
Yes.
stuff like that?
You're talking about the big building?
Yeah.
From my understanding, that's no plan to take that down. Yeah, I mean.
I thought
There isn't, to me, I only found one building on the site, 2 buildings on the site.
2 buildings.
The former chapel, and then the other was the
Okay.
horse stable from years and years
Oh,
ago.
okay, that's the one that's close to the road, the entrance.
Road, yeah.
Okay. So what's your question
No, I
about?
thought I mentioned that in the plans, but perhaps not then. Then other than that, none at this time. Okay.
Denise,
No questions.
anybody in the audience wants to speak to this project? I'm hearing none. I need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed. I need
Accept
a
the
motion.
project as presented.
I have a motion to accept the amended order of conditions.
David, does this have to have any type of,
I would just say, as I mentioned, there'd be some added conditions to address the herbicide application and whatnot. So those conditions would be also included in the amendment.
sounds good.
Okay, there it is.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
Perfect, thank you.
See Dave before
Thank
you
you.
start the work. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Continued hearing. We have a continued hearing for Cape and the Islands Realty, 31 Agawam Lakeshore Drive. Who's here to present this project?
Thank you, Brian Grady, GAF Engineering.
Wait a second. I was working off an old agenda, so I didn't know this was on it. Thank you. Okay. Oh, there's a revised plan. Okay. Okay. All right. Dave, your turn.
All right. This project site is at 31 Agawam Lakeshore Drive, and this project involves the removal of an existing structure and the reconstruction of a new dwelling, a larger dwelling with new septic system at the site, and all of this is within the buffer zone to Agawam Mill Pond. So the existing home is to be removed, and then the new, larger home with associated deck is proposed. When we looked at this initially, I had a question regarding how the edge of the wetland was represented. I thought there was a wetland that was not represented on the original plan. We have since received a revised plan which does show the wetland accurately, as far as I'm concerned. So with that, I would recommend the approval of the project because all of the work is being maintained outside the 30-foot no activity zone. I would say that there should be some conditioning that the wetland vegetation be maintained and not, sort of cut off down the road once the new house gets built. So that does need to stay. There's also sort of an existing debris pile near the wetlands, which, again, I'm assuming is going to be part of the project to remove, but if not, there should be a condition to remove that material as well. Hay bales and silt fence should be used between the work and the resource area. We do have a DEP file number for the project, so with that, I would recommend the approval of the project with the conditions that I've mentioned.
Alyssa, questions? Carol,
No questions.
Kwame,
No questions, thanks.
Michael.
Okay, just a couple of things here. First of all, I did want to state, as I did state the last time, that my mother and I do frequent this applicant's business over on Creamery Highway. We do not have any financial interest at all in it. That's number one. Number two, are we all set with the septic system in this project?
Yes, it was approved at the Board of Health this afternoon.
Okay, then I'm all set. Thank you.
Denise?
Just the driveway, is that permeable?
No, we'll probably pave the driveway similar to what's next door.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Dave, you mentioned the wetland vegetation needs to be maintained as part of the order of conditions and remove material.
Yeah, there's sort of a pile of debris down close towards the edge of the pond that needs to be removed.
From the edge of the pond.
There's
Yeah.
debris, there's a kayak and a boat, and all that will be
You mean
removed.
that, So who owns the boats?
I believe it was left there from the prior owner.
Okay, so you're talking about the
He's going to give me the boat.
watercraft. Oh, I was going to say,
We'll donate
kayak
that
looked
to the
pretty
Natural
good.
Resources Department.
Yeah, okay. So that's what you mean by debris?
Yeah,
Left
well,
over.
there's
There's
a pile of
there's a
actual
pile of,
stuff there.
Both sides.
It's on both sides.
yes, so
Yeah,
remove the vegetation from the edge of the pond.
no, don't remove the
No,
vegetation.
remove the material.
Yeah, the debris.
Wetland vegetation needs to be maintained. Remove the debris
Yes,
Don't reverse that.
from the edge of the pond. Hay bales and silk fence.
yes.
And remove the watercraft. Okay, is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this project? I'm seeing none.
I move that we close the hearing.
Thank you. And I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor, say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
abstained, the hearing is closed. All right, who wants to take a shot at the approval of standard order of conditions plus?
I move that we accept this project with a standard order of conditions, plus that vegetation at the water remain
Is
intact,
maintained-
is maintained. All debris is moved, including the watercraft.
Yes, that is the motion.
Any other things?
Nope.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Done. Please, Dave, before you start the work.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. The hearing for 91 Edgewater Drive has been requested to be continued until August 4th. Anybody here to talk to that project? So I make a motion to, someone needs to make a motion to continue until August 4th. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. It is continued until 8/4. The next continued hearing was George and Carrie Barrett. They requested a continuance until 8/4.
Move to continue that hearing to 8.
I have a motion to continue to 8/4.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. It's continued. The next hearing is Scott and Laura Christofoli. Christofoli. Okay, and please identify yourself for the record.
Brian Wallace with JC Engineering.
All right. This one has been in the works for a long time. All right, Dave. Did you all get a chance to look at the paperwork Dave sent out this afternoon, including the eelgrass study?
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't, if you have a printed copy of it, I'd like to see that.
I'll loan it to you.
I'll just borrow it.
New plans.
Oh, great, thank you.
They can share.
Okay, so this project site is at 9 Lydia's Island Road, and this project involves the construction of a 165-foot pier, ramp, and float system from this property. This was a project that was initially filed some months ago, but it was at a time when an eelgrass survey could not be conducted, so we have now gotten into that season where that could be done, and that has been recently done, and we just did get that information submitted to us today. The structure does extend out towards a couple of existing moorings, and I discussed with Brian earlier today about the fact that that is going to be an issue with respect to where the end of the pier is in relation to those moorings. I would like to have the harbor master weigh in on this issue and the eelgrass survey, just to get his comments on the project as a whole. So I am recommending that we continue the hearing to the next meeting, just so that can occur. And again, since we just got some of this information today. They did mark out the starting point and where the end would be with a float out in the water. So that has been done. There is also a 6 by 11 foot landing, it's called, on the shore. I don't really think that's something that should be permitted. Basically, it's a deck at the shore end of the dock. It should just be the standard 4-foot width entrance onto the pier. That was pretty much all the comments I had currently. So, as I said, I would recommend a continuance until we get comments from the harbor master and have a chance to really review what's been submitted to us today.
Brian, anything to add?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So just a couple comments. As far as the length of the pier goes, you know, the reason we have it extended so far out is simply due to the shallow and gentle slope of the water in that area. In order to have that suitable depth for the float as well as any proposed boat. Unfortunately, that is just how far we needed to push that dock out to achieve that at low tide. So, you know, we'll obviously look forward to hearing from the harbor master and seeing what we can do about those moorings and to work around that issue. And as far as the landing goes, we can look at different ways to you know, work that area. But one thing I would like to point out is in order to maintain the public access around the structure, we do need to provide steps in some way. And that was part of having that landing there, was to give people, you know, the ability to go around the structure if they're traversing around the shoreline. So that's about all I have to add to that. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, typically for the access, you might just see a set of stairs go up to the dock and then just down the other side versus an around the horn sort of thing, you know. So again, to minimize footprints is what would be, you know, the goal there.
Okay.
Any questions on the board? Alyssa?
Let's hit the mic.
On the plan, it just says.
Mike?
Your mic, Alyssa.
On the plan, it says, deck elevation 6 feet, sort of halfway down. Isn't that for people walking?
The deck elevation, yeah, so that is just about the same elevation as the shore, and where there's an existing landing to the left that would be proposing to remove is at about elevation 6. So that would be carried out for the pier.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Carol?
No questions.
Kwame?
No questions, thanks.
Michael?
No questions, thank you.
Denise?
No questions, thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this project? Seeing none?
We want to close the hearing. No,
Continue.
We're going to continue.
Continue the hearing.
I'm going to continue.
We're going to continue.
August 4th, good enough? Okay, was that a motion to continue the hearing?
That was.
Second.
And I have a second. All in favor of continuing until August 4th?
Yes.
Opposed? Yes, opposed, abstained, 8-4 continued.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
everybody that has a piece of property. Okay, that was a side comment. All right. Next public hearing was for BERE LLC, and they've asked for a continuance until 8/4. I need a motion to continue until 8/4.
Motion to continue the hearing till 8/4.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, it continued in 8/4. The next continued hearing was the Wareham MA3 LLC. They've asked for a continuance until 8/4.
Motion to continue to the 4th?
I have a motion and a second to continue it until August 4th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, that's it. The next we have on the line is enforcement orders.
So the first one that's on the list is one that's still being worked out. This is the one with the shed basically on the edge of Heinz Field there. So I'm still meeting with the property owner to address the wetlands boundary there. So there's no real action to be taken on that at this meeting. The next one is for this ongoing situation down at East Boulevard. Again, that is still being addressed through town council, and so I don't have anything new to report on that at this point. And the last one is the one we talked about at 4 Wareham Lakeshore Drive. And there was some discussion as to what would be allowable for the applicant to do in terms of planting. Did we already conclude that they could do some sod there? Was that something we discussed and came to a conclusion, or were members going to go out there and look at that?
Has anybody gone out and looked? I have not.
I haven't.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then I would say maybe do that prior to the next meeting. Just get out to that site so you can understand what's going on and what needs to be done there to
So there's a
wrap that
task
up.
for us. Let's go look at 4 Wareham Lakeshore Drive.
Right,
It's a dead-end road.
yep.
All right, certification of compliances.
So the first one is down at Shell Lane, Mr. Mark Connolly. And this was for the actual road reconstruction that you asked about earlier, Michael, whether or not that work had been done. So the work has been completed. We do have an as-built plan, and everything is in order with the order of conditions. So I would recommend the issuance of the certificate of compliance for that project.
I move that we issue the certificate of compliance.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, done.
Thank you. So would I remove the erosion control at this point?
You can remove that, yes.
And my only question is, on the wattle, would you want me to completely remove that or cut it and leave the hay for some additional protection, or?
In that particular zone, it's pretty stable, you know, so
all
might
out of
as well just get it
Okay,
out of there,
very good.
yeah.
All right. well,
But, yeah, you're good to go on
Excellent.
that.
I'd like to thank
The only-
the commission and the administrator for your time and
And you
consideration.
certainly, 8:30, you hung in there.
The only other thing I would ask for that is there's still some cut wood sort of laying along the inside of the road that needs to get
We'll
out
get
of
it
there.
out of there.
Other than that, everything's good,
Yeah,
so,
we should be able to give hardwood away pretty easily.
I'm sure.
Would you like it?
If I lived closer, I would.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
The second certificate of compliance is at a property at 46 Circuit Ave, which involved enclosing a deck into a 3-season room. That project also has been completed according to the order of conditions, so I would recommend the issuance of that certificate of compliance.
I move that we issue that certificate of compliance.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, done. All right, the next thing is the Buzzards Bay Coalition letter of support. It was mailed to us electronically, and he's looking for a letter of support. You said you wanted to make a couple changes on it?
Just a couple minor sort of tweaks, nothing substantial in terms of changing the content of the letter, but just a couple things that I noticed that should be modified slightly. So other than that, I would recommend that the commission vote to issue that letter of support for the Buzzards Bay Coalition.
So moved. I need a so moved,
So moved.
So moved.
and I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, done.
I'll have to have that so you can sign that
Yes,
tomorrow.
like I'll be signing minutes tomorrow, too.
Yes.
Okay. All right. One other thing we have is appointments. I think Denise has shown a strong support of this Conservation Commission, and I would like a motion, unless someone objects, I would like to have a motion to recommend her to be appointed to as a full member.
I so move.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. I will be sending a letter to the selectmen asking for indicating our recommendation that you be appointed. You have to wait for them to vote on it, but I will be sending it to them to put on their agenda. And I think maybe, I don't know if I can make it for next week, but it will be done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm very pleased.
I am extremely pleased.
All right. Your turn. Would you like to come up and speak to us?
My name is Bob Fitchmeyer. I applied for the opening on your board.
Come and have a seat.
Have a seat.
Have a seat.
Join us.
Now, Bob, I did send your submission around to everybody, and of course, we've all seen you quite a few times at town meeting, haven't we?
You've seen me for many, many years.
Many, many years.
What I would ask of the board, I would like to attend another couple of meetings, get more familiar with what you do and how you operate.
Great.
And if the position is still open then, I may reapply to you
So-
and hopefully be accepted.
Then you did sit through 2 hours.
I did.
I did. Do you have any questions of us?
No, not particularly. I would ask, and it's not really a question to you, the town website states this meeting starts at 7.
We will correct that.
It just makes it difficult for people that want to come to the board and, and talk and
See-
be part of the audience.
So the agenda says 6:30, not everybody gets to see the agenda, not everybody would go to look at the agenda, but it came to mind that the selectmen wanted to change their meeting and come to this room prior to 7 o'clock, and I said, no, we meet at 6:30, which led me to believe that the website still says 7. I will make that recommendation to Mr. Underhill to correct that.
I look forward to seeing the board for the next couple of meetings, and hopefully we'll talk again.
Thank you.
Thank
So-
you very much for your time.
If
Thank
you're
you.
interested, we will then be asking you questions when you feel comfortable to say you would like to join
I was
us.
very interested in what I saw tonight. The conversation between you all and the way you passively handle things. I'm more forceful, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you.
Good night, people.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Do you prefer Bob or Robert?
Bob.
Okay,
All right, Bob,
Each
thanks.
most things I'm called, believe me. Take care, people.
thank you.
too.
Bye. So unless there's something else on the plate, did we sign all the papers?
Yes.
I have a motion to adjourn at 8:35.
Wow.
Second.
Awesome.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. Done. Thank you.